Hello, everyone. Say anything to anybody?
Hello. I have posted videos on Gonzalo before. If you don't know, he has been illegally arrested in the Ukraine, and the United States government is doing nothing to help him. And as U.S. citizens, it's our responsibility to stand up and say this is unacceptable. And I did a whole video on this, so I'm not going to go into it again. But in that video, I said I would eventually go through and post the conversations that I had with Gonzalo.
Hey, David, how's it going? Oh, there is David. David, how's it going?
Yeah.
What's on your mind, man?
Good. How you doing? Can you hear me okay?
Yeah, pretty good. Thanks for your support, man. What's on your mind?
Yeah. Well, I'll move to I'm in a seedy little hotel in remote Mexico, so I'll try to move close to the Wi-Fi if I lose you. I heard you talking about China. I just wanted to. I know that there's 2 or 3 Chinese people on here, but I know that you might appreciate this. Is in Chinese the X is pronounced SH, so it's actually Xi Jinping. Okay, and I know a lot of people say G, and very interesting as well is. Go ahead.
No. I was just pronouncing it Xi Jinping.
Yep. So like he, she.
Yeah. What's your point?
No, I was just offering.
Oh, okay.
It makes, it's just my opinion. When somebody is incorrectly pronouncing something, that, it doesn't make them sound like an expert on the topic. So that's why I just wanted to point that out.
I'm far from an expert on the topic of Chinese politics. I know like Xi Jinping and panda bears, and that's pretty much it.
Yeah. Another interesting fact that most people don't know. Do you know China only has 1 time zone for the entire country?
Yeah, that's a little weird. Yeah, I'd heard of that. It must be awkward sometimes.
So you could fly from east to west. Yeah. Are you familiar with The Wizard of Oz? I'm sure you are, and I'm sure you've seen it. Sure. That actually is a story about the creation of the Federal Reserve and going off the gold standard.
Mm-hmm.
And hence Oz is ounces and Wizard, the yellow brick road is for gold. And the original book, she wore silver slippers, not ruby. But they thought that was a little bit too much. And it just drives home the information about the United States and what the country's been about since probably the Mexican-American War has been there. It's just people choose not to see it. Maybe they're on a treadmill.
I think it's different. I think it's actually different. I've been giving it a lot of thought. And I think that the United States, at the turn of the 20th century, it could have gone in multiple directions. And it because of Wilson and then subsequently FDR, it pursued this internationalist, expansionist ideology that's led to the global American empire. But it could have just as easily continued on the path of just being aloof from the world's issues and maintaining the Monroe Doctrine insofar as the Western Hemisphere is concerned, but remaining aloof from European entanglements or Far Eastern entanglements. And it was Wilson, and most especially FDR, that created this globalist empire. That's my thinking of this desire, this need, almost like a tick of getting involved in foreign adventures. But you have to keep in mind the United States, for all of the 19th century, especially after the Civil War, with the industrial boom in the United States, it was very aloof from any foreign entanglements. They followed Washington's dictate of not getting involved in foreign affairs and not getting into foreign alliances, but just looking after the best interests of the United States. It could have gone anyway, but because of Wilson and then especially FDR, we got what we have now.
Well, Wilson definitely was a real scumbag with the creation of the Fed, the IRS, and World War I. The
IRS League of Nations. Yeah, the IRS was only supposed to tax people who were rich, and the working classes would never have income taxes. And what's your income tax bracket now? Huh?
Right.
For you,
That's how
working minimum wage, even your tips get taxed now. Jesus.
That's how they roll. They get it in, and it's
they slip it in a little bit, and then it goes all the way. Yeah.
Yeah, I forget the term. It's slipping. It's escaping my mind. But there's a term that they used back during the American right before the American Mexican War. Divine. It's like divine. They basically considered it God. Manifest destiny. Thank you. And basically, the United States felt that the continent was theirs to take. They made the deal with France for Louisiana Purchase. They made the deal with Russia, obviously, for land. And then, they tried to make a deal with Mexico, and Mexico basically gave them the bird. And so they started, like the U.S. has done. See, all these like you said, they have a book that they have compiled over the years, and now it's so precise. They know exactly what to do, when to do. It's because they've played these hundreds of times. They are taking what Mexico didn't want to sell, and basically took half of Mexico at the time. Mm-hmm. And that really led to the Civil War, and that was the precursor. That was like the bloodying for all these generals who became in the Civil War. And like you said, then the War of 1898 is when they really started. And because then the United States got its first foreign holdings in the War of 1898. They got the Philippines. They ended up getting Guam. And obviously they could have taken Cuba, but they let that go. And I think Puerto Rico as well at that time. And so that's when the U.S. really started becoming, like you said, the as Teddy Roosevelt said, the guy carrying the stick, the big stick. Yeah. Yeah. And it's it's been. Yeah, well, I'm just curious. I don't think people in the United States, or even like you mentioned with Germany, people aren't going to wake up until they have everything taken from them, and then it will be too late. But when you look at the financial markets and you see the games they're playing, they're going to continue playing these games, maneuvering the markets, silver, gold, other commodities, until, this is just my opinion, until Russia or China say it's game over. Do you think that time is approaching, or do you think that there's going to be another catalyst? I'm sorry?
I think that time is coming very quickly, especially as of late. The BLM, the Bureau of Labor Statistics, is falsifying data. Yeah. And they falsified the labor data because it didn't square with other figures. And it looks like the consumer price index is also going to be hinky. So, yeah, I think things are going south real fast, and they're trying to hide it. You don't falsify data unless the data is so bad, or the implications of it are so bad, that you don't want people to get wise to it. So, yeah, no, the whole shit show is, I'm surprised. The end point, the moment of explosion is coming awfully fast. That's what I would say, definitively. It's coming awfully fast. Between the,
and you think it will be an external influence, not an influence?
At this point, there are so many, crisis points that it could be anything that just sparks a whole breakdown. But I think that we're headed for a breakdown in the United States, certainly, in Europe, certainly. The only ones that are going to make it through of the Western civilization are the Russians. Because don't kid yourself, in Central and South America, whatever happens in the United States and North America and Europe is going to have a severe effect on America. Okay? And we can discount Africa because Africa is always going to be a bit of a shit show. But Europe and America are going down. And the only bastion of Western civilization that is out all right, assuming that there's no nuclear conflict or some severe escalation of this current conflict here in Ukraine, are the Russians, But they have no one to blame but themselves for the crisis that's unfolding, And if they do go to war with China in 2025, as they've been threatening to, all bets are off. Anything can happen in that conflict. If the Chinese sink a few aircraft carriers and the United States responds with nuclear weapons, anything is on the table, man. Anything. So we'll have to see how that
Yeah,
goes.
and there's really nothing people can do in those countries.
Nope. Because you do not have a democratic leadership. You have a regime in place that, doesn't give a shit about you.
Yeah, but
so they're
right.
going to repress you.
But you lived in the U.S. and you know that there's a sense of bravado that is based on these false premises, and so a lot of people think that if they have an AR-15 and a pistol, they'll be able to take over Washington, and that's how you get killed. You become a martyr.
Yeah,
and that's why I was saying there's really nothing people can do other than vote with their feet and leave.
Yeah, basically. But
they don't believe that.
No, very few people are going to leave. Most people think that, it'll get better.
Well, what a lot of my friends say to me is,
it'll get worse and worse, and every day people say, oh, well, it's just around the corner. It'll turn around any minute now. And of course, by the time that the water is boiling and there are frogs in the boiling water, it'll be way too late. So,
well, it makes you appreciate how brave the people were. For example, the Jews in 1930s Germany, who closed their shops, who were there 100 years and left everything behind on that conviction. And when people thought they were insane, like Moses building the ark, right? And so I don't think people have the courage in the United States to make those kind of moves. I don't know what the catalyst would be.
What happens also is that with the issue of the Jewish diaspora out of Germany in the very early 30s and even in the late 20s, what happened was that, they are a people who are used to moving, who understand that when shit goes south, it's better to split. Okay. And so they have that cultural knowledge, if you want to put it in those terms. And so that's why they could say to themselves, hey, this shit show is going down, let's leave. Well, we still can. Whereas people in the United States, they've been in the States, 2, 3, 4 generations in the same place, or in the States generally, different states, but it's all the United States. And so they don't have the cultural memory of having to flee from some really bad situation. Okay, because do keep in mind, like, for instance, a lot of the German Jews who left, right? A lot of them had come from Russia, from the persecution of Jews in the late 19th century and early 20th century. So they had some fairly recent examples that could show them, hey, if you don't leave in time, you could be the one getting chased by people with pitchforks and torches, right? But in the States, people don't have that experience, and so that's why they're going to put up with it until it's far too late. Yeah.
Yeah, well, unfortunately, I have failed at being able to convince family and friends that they've got to make these changes. So maybe I'll be able to set things up so that they'll have a soft landing spot.
Yeah, you should do that. You should do that.
Well, that's what I'm trying.
Yeah, because, look, people only realize how desperate a situation is when they personally are desperate, okay? And so you just have to wait around for that moment. That's the best I can tell you, man. But, you're smart. You see the writing on the wall. What happens is that, a lot of times when the wall gets too close, you can't see the writing. That's the problem, okay? You can only see the writing sort of like when you're in the middle distance. But when you're right on top of the wall, you kind of like can't see it anymore. It's like a weird effect.
No, well, you know how it's never comfortable going through major life changes. Never. And that's where you have to have the courage that this too will pass, and try to make the best decision that you can.
Yeah, I'm still here. I'm just going to freshen up my coffee.
Yeah,
exactly right. So anyway,
well, thank you. All right,
it's great
peace.
talking to you again, and let's bring on take care, David.
Live long and prosper.